She was on her knees. Again. But this time, she was sobbing. Really sobbing. Last time wasn't like this. Not exactly. Except for one thing. She was on her knees then, too. Okay, two things. Both times, she had nothing on. That was true. This time, though, Chad was making a whole different set of sounds. He was weak. That one solid punch to his gut had all my anger behind it. He was down, sprawled on the floor, gasping, trying to crawl away. I reached for the phone and hit the call button. 911, what's your emergency? Do you need fire, medical, or police services? I need the police, I said, breathing hard. I'm at home. Some guy's trying to kill me. He's got my shotgun. Send the cops. Now. I let the phone drop to the floor. The dispatcher's voice crackled from the speaker, calling out for me. I racked the 12-gauge and yelled, "Oh God, don't shoot me!" Then, I slammed my boot down on the phone. Hard. The screen went dark. As I stepped past her, she latched onto my leg. I kept moving, dragging her with me. She was sobbing, begging through her tears. Please, no, no, oh God, please. Step, drag, step, drag. I made my way around the bed. Step, drag, step, drag. I kicked my leg hard, shaking her loose. She slumped to the floor, defeated. Her cries turned into these awful broken moans, like an old dog caught in a trap. I shoved the shotgun toward him, gripping the barrel in my hand. That's when I saw it, the moment he thought he had a chance. I smiled. He lunged, grabbing at the shotgun like a drowning man reaching for a life raft. His fingers closed around the stock. His finger found the trigger. That was all I needed. I yanked the gun toward me, twisting the barrel to the left, forcing his grip tight, making him pull the trigger himself. The blast ripped through the air. I felt a few pellets tear across my upper arm, just grazes. The barrel burned against my hands, the smell of scorched flesh filling my nose. Didn't matter. I flipped the shotgun in my grip, raised it like a club, and swung. The first hit cracked against his skull. The second made him slump. By the third, he was out cold. I kicked his legs apart and swung my 12-gauge like a 3-wood. Then I turned back to her. Her breathing was ragged, but the screaming had stopped. Her eyes were wide, staring. Shock was written all over her face. Fear settled deep into every feature. We locked eyes. Before I could say anything, I heard my front door slam open. I tossed the shotgun across the room and raised my right arm. My left sleeve was soaked in blood. Police! 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 They flooded into the bedroom, guns drawn. I yelled out, "I called you!" He tried to kill me. I pointed to the unconscious man on the floor. Josh. She didn't say a word to contradict me. He couldn't. By the time the EMTs were wrapping my arm in gauze and rubbing ointment onto my burned hands, the cops were already piecing everything together. Now we were in my living room. Through the window, I could see reporters gathering on my front lawn. Question and answer time. It was my house, my gun, my bedroom, and my story was solid. The physical evidence backed it up. He found my gun, tried to use it against me, and I went after him, grabbing the barrel. The 911 call recording matched, too. I didn't have any real reason to go to the hospital. Josh, though, that was a different story. He needed a hospital. As for her, the cops decided she didn't need medical attention, but as an accomplice to attempted murder, she was going downtown. They cuffed her and hauled her out for booking. One of the detectives, flipping through his notebook, glanced up at me. "All right, Mr. Smith, I think we've got everything we need for tonight. You gave your contact info to the officers, right?" "Yes, sir," I said, my voice heavy with exhaustion. The adrenaline had worn off. I was done. "It's been a long night," he said. "We'll be finishing up soon, but you need to stay out of the bedroom for now." I shook my head. "That's not a problem. There was no way I was staying here tonight. A hotel would have to do." "All right," I said with a nod. "We'll secure the house once we're done," the officer told me, handing me his card. I took it, but my mind was somewhere else. A while back, I had this nagging feeling. Something wasn't right. I couldn't explain it, couldn't point to anything specific, but my gut told me there was a problem. So I paid attention. Little by little, I started ruling things out, narrowing it down. And in the end, I was left with one unavoidable truth. Whatever was wrong, it had to do with her. It was the small things she did, the way she reacted to certain situations. Those little clues tipped me off. At least now, I knew where to focus my attention. A month ago, she had been careful. No obvious traces, nothing suspicious. No hidden messages, no strange phone calls, nothing to follow up on. But once I really started watching, man, a whole lot of things became crystal clear. Her reactions spoke volumes. She'd been spending more and more time with Samantha. We had met Samantha and her husband, Maurice, through mutual friends about a year ago. Maurice was quiet, kind of soft-spoken, maybe a little effeminate, but he had a sharp sense of humor, especially when it came to making fun of himself. He wasn't the kind of guy I'd call up to grab a beer, but I didn't mind a dinner or a backyard barbecue with them now and then. Samantha, though, I wasn't a fan. She was bossy, dismissive, especially toward Maurice. Not my business, though. She also had a habit of talking down to me, and that I didn't let slide. I called her out on it more than once. She was stubborn, I'll give her that. But she and her? They hit it off right away. Every time we got together, the two of them would go full chatty Cathy on us, completely in their own world. At first, it was just a couples thing. Dinners, occasional hangouts. Then, suddenly, it was just the two of them. Lunches. Girls' nights out. Every single week. About 3 weeks ago, I got some bugs. One for her car. 4 for her purses. Now, she had way more than 4 purses, but I focused on the ones she used the most. These bugs were tiny, digital, with radio transmitters. They looked like a couple of stick pins glued together. Easy to hide. Yesterday, I was listening in on her lunch. They were at Rachel's house. Rachel wouldn't shut up about her companion. She had one, and she wanted to share it with her. It took me a second to piece together what the hell they were talking about. And when I finally did, oh man, I lost it. Just from the weight of that little conversation, I knew she had betrayed me. And worse, she wasn't done. I was sitting there, listening to them plan the destruction of our wedding vows. Vows that, at least on paper, were still intact. But those two, they were locked in, dead set on tearing them apart. I had spent over half my life with this woman. And yet, listening to that conversation, it hit me. I didn't know her at all. Rachel. She loved humiliating her husband, Eric. She got off on it. And now, they were plotting to do the same thing to me. I just couldn't wrap my head around it. How could she be that cruel? They kept chatting away, and in the background, I could hear Eric waiting on them, taking care of whatever they needed. Meanwhile, her voice was practically buzzing with excitement. I sat at my desk, completely stunned. I must have zoned out because the next thing I knew, I had this overwhelming need to get away from my wife. If I didn't, I wasn't sure I could stop myself from confronting her right then and there. The thought made my stomach turn. I barely made it to the trash can before I threw up. After that, I told my assistant to call her and say I had to leave town for work. My assistant, not knowing a damn thing, casually mentioned that she'd pack my bag before heading out to lunch with Rachel. That way, I could swing by and grab it on my way to the airport. That was 2 weeks ago. And let me tell you, these last 7 days? Brutal. I've been turning this whole mess over in my head, trying to make sense of it. But no matter how much I think about it, I just can't. How could she ever believe I would put up with this? I don't know. And honestly, I don't think I want to know. Rachel was in this deep. And yet, every time she talked to Samantha, she swore up and down that she loved me. What the hell was that about? Her head was a complete mess. I even had to stop and ask myself, was there something wrong with her? Some kind of medical issue? But even if there was, it didn't change the fact that they were coming for me. I had to protect myself. Charging in head first wouldn't solve anything. It would just get people killed, maybe even land me on death row. And in this state, I'd be lucky if I didn't get the needle. So, no, that wasn't the plan. I needed to remove the threat permanently. And I knew this was going to get messy. She loved the life I built for us. The country club membership, the social circles, the money. She loved being the woman everyone admired, Miss Perfect. But I had lived with her for 25 years. I knew how she really operated. And for just as long, I had to act like some clueless idiot while she did it. The only thing keeping me calm? My anger. It gave me the patience to wait. Because when I did make my move, she wouldn't see it coming. It was all about timing. And right now, it wasn't time yet. So I used her computer to buy another $2 million in life insurance on me. Double indemnity. If I died in an accident or as a crime victim, she'd get it all. Last week, I finally learned the name of her so-called companion. Chad Cullis. I needed to know everything about this guy. Stanford grad. MBA from Wharton. Rich daddy in politics. He was going places. And from what I could tell, he knew it. Completely entitled. Never married. A few engagements, sure, but nothing that stuck, at least, according to the society pages at backdoor.com. I dug through pictures, watched a couple of his rallies. So, he was a politician. And that got me thinking. What was that old saying? Any publicity is good publicity. I wondered if that was really true. Because this week, I could feel it. Things were shifting. Everything was coming to a head. She was on edge, restless, anxious. And the way she handled it? She practically threw herself at me. We were all over each other, like rabbits. She was intense, completely into it. I lost track of how many times she got hers before I even got close. And thanks to those little bugs in her purses, I knew exactly why. Most of my time was spent in a slow, simmering rage. From what I'd put together, Chad had his hooks in Samantha, and at least 2 other married women. The country club was his personal hunting ground. And, wouldn't you know it, they were all on the funding committee for his re-election campaign. I also found out he was planning some kind of gathering next week. At Samantha's house. So I did what had to be done. I found a guy, a real bottom-of-the-barrel type. Desperate. Shady. The kind of guy who wasn't going to ask a lot of questions. Paid him in cash. He broke in, wired the place up. Worked out well for both of us. He was in a rush to skip town, heading overseas. And I got exactly what I needed. By Monday, she was practically crawling up the walls. Racked with guilt, but also amped for something. She ran me ragged, completely obsessed with the fantasy of being with Chad. And even worse, she wanted me to be part of it. Joining Chad's little group. That thought alone nearly made me sick. But she was more satisfied than ever. By Tuesday, I had everything I needed. Video, audio, crystal clear footage of Chad with those 3 women. And the worst part? Maurice was there. Not as a guest, not even as an equal. He was a servant. So was another woman's husband. They weren't just waiting on Chad and the women. They were preparing him, catering to them. And the way they were spoken to? The verbal abuse was on another level. It wasn't just humiliation, it was fuel. It excited them. They made the men wear humiliating, restrictive clothing. There were oversized props. So much crude, disgusting talk. And Chad? Man, he loved being the center of attention. He ran the whole thing like a goddamn circus. Bragged about his corporate jets. Dropped names left and right. Talked about how he was going to be king. And then, he actually told Samantha she should use one of those props on Maurice. Take away what little dignity he had left. And she laughed. They all laughed. Chad thought it was hilarious. They controlled the servants completely. There were a lot of drugs. The whole thing was disturbing, twisted, even. And my cameras caught everything. Tonight, she was jumpy. She broke a plate in the kitchen. I knew why. She was planning to have the talk with me. Chad was coming over. They were going to explain things. Like I was some dumbass who just needed it spelled out. Chad was 32. A former jock. Kept himself in shape. He wasn't even worried about me, some almost 50-year-old, overweight husband. Hell, I think he was looking forward to it. More than being with my wife, even. Like it was a game to him. And her? She had to have lost her damn mind. I knew this wasn't blackmail. Samantha's stories about Chad had been like a siren song, pulling her in. She wanted this. Well, I guess I was as ready as I was gonna be. Let the games begin. Kickoff, 8 p.m. The plan was to put me in a box. First, the divorce, that alone would wreck me. If that didn't work, they had a whole list of ways to screw me over. Blackmail, legal traps, political pressure from Chad's connections. Even cops and the IRS breathing down my neck. And if all of that failed, they'd just take what they wanted anyway. Burn me to the ground. Because to them, I was nothing but a weakling. I heard Chad open the front door. I was sitting in the living room, drinking a beer, watching the game. Then, casually, I got up and walked out the back door. I'll admit, it was kind of fun watching them scramble, searching the house for me. Chad was pissed. Eventually, they gave up looking. Then, they headed upstairs, straight to my bedroom. I let them get comfortable. Gave them a couple of minutes. Finished my beer. Then, quietly, I slipped back inside. I had set my shotgun just inside the garage door earlier. I grabbed it and headed upstairs. The next morning, I woke up in a bed I didn't recognize. My arm ached. The shock had worn off. So had the drugs. And my hands, they hurt like hell. Everything came rushing back. The rage. The energy it gave me. I grabbed the remote and flipped on the TV. Didn't take long to find the breaking news. Chad was in the hospital, under arrest for attempted murder. His office was already trying to spin it. Fake news. A setup. The usual garbage. But what really stood out? Not one person in his political party was standing up for him. When the media asked, they dodged, ducked, weaved. I got up, made my way to the bathroom, and peeled the dressing off my hands and arm. Then, I stepped into the shower. By the time I got out, my phone was ringing. I glanced at the caller ID, recognized the number. It was the detective. Not some spam call about my car's warranty. I picked up. Hello, Mr. Smith? This is Detective Green. Hey, Detective. What can I do for you? Would you be able to come down and talk with us this afternoon? Yeah, that's probably a good idea. I don't think I'm in any shape to go to work today anyway. 2 o'clock work for you? That'd be great. See you then. All right. See you soon, Detective. Thanks for coming in, Mr. Smith, the lead detective said. Sure. No problem, I replied. Honestly, I'm still trying to wrap my head around all of this. Hope you guys have some answers, 'cause none of this makes any sense to me. There was real exhaustion in my voice. The detective gave me a long look. How do you know Chad Cullis? I don't, I said flatly, except from seeing him on the news. Loudmouth politician. Seemed like an idiot. Then why do you think he attacked you? I let out a short laugh, shaking my head. Apparently, he was sleeping with my wife. I had no clue he was even in the house, until I walked in on them. In my bedroom. The detective's face didn't change. And what happened next? I heard his voice as I came in from the backyard. So I followed it upstairs, to my room. I paused. They were both naked. The words sat heavy in the air. And my shotgun? I added. Was right next to him. The detective's brow furrowed slightly. And your wife? I exhaled sharply. She was on her knees. Another pause. Behaving intimately with him. For a second, neither of us said anything. Then I continued. I grabbed her phone and dialed 911. That's when Chad started yelling. Chad grabbed my gun, started waving it around like a lunatic. I hit the call button. That's when he pointed it right at my face. So I charged him. I caught him completely off guard. I grabbed the barrel and shoved it aside. Honestly, it all happened so fast, it was a blur. But that's how I remember it. I paused, rubbing my arm before continuing. I think it actually shocked him when he missed me. I shook my head. I just held on, pulled the shotgun right out of his hands, and used it on him until he stopped coming at me. The detective raised an eyebrow. You had to go for his, privates to stop him? He smirked. I let out a short laugh. No, I said, shaking my head. He was already out. That was just for me. I shrugged. I only hit him once. That little confession landed with the detective. He got it. In the same situation, he might have done the same damn thing. And just like that, I wasn't some suspect. I was just a guy. A good guy who had been pushed too far. The detective? He bought my story. All of it. And even though he was a good investigator, that natural confirmation bias kicked in. Everything that backed me up? It felt more true. Everything else? Noise. The next week, Chad's people finally got their act together. His dad had to reach deep into his pockets, spreading cash wherever it needed to go. And just like that, the talking heads were everywhere. Spinning. Deflecting. Blaming. It was a setup. The other political party was behind it. Antifa. BLM. Socialists. They threw everything at the wall, hoping something would stick. First, they denied the details. There was no gun, no husband, no wife, no house. Hell, they even started saying the town wasn't real. Then, when that wasn't enough, they went after me. I was the real problem. I was the threat. Look at my past. When I was 17, I got busted with a joint. So that made me a drug dealer. A liberal menace to society. Never mind that none of this was true. Didn't matter. The talking heads were losing their damn minds. And now, Chad's political allies were finally peeking their heads out. Like prairie dogs after a storm. Cautious. Curious. Wondering if it was safe to come back out. Chad's allies were scrambling, trying to figure out which way the wind was blowing. A lot of fingers in the air, testing the direction. Meanwhile, she was still in lockup. The media circus was in full swing, ramping up for the bail hearings. Chad's was scheduled for Thursday at 11 a.m. By Wednesday morning, the media outlets backing Chad's side were frothing at the mouth. The other side? They were loving it. Ratings were through the roof. By noon, the outrage machine was in overdrive. People were shouting over each other on live TV, pushing conspiracy theories, twisting the facts. And by the time the 7 p.m. primetime shows rolled around, it was a full-on mob. Pitchforks were being handed out. Torches were getting lit. Some folks were even calling Chad righteous. A few so-called faith leaders, people no one had ever heard of, were suddenly being brought on air to answer very serious questions about morality. Then came Thursday, 8 a.m. Several major news outlets received an email. Inside, a link. Now, media companies don't just click random links. They've got protocols. Safe spaces to check things out. So, they followed it. The link led to a website. And on that website, 6 full hours of footage. Chad. The wives. The servants. Everything. Multiple camera angles. Crystal clear. And if that wasn't enough, the site had separate links to highlight reels, just in case someone wanted to skip straight to the good parts. By 8:10 a.m., those links started popping up everywhere. Emails went out to political donors, corporate sponsors. Noon hit, and the Wall Street Journal was the first to break the story. And the talking heads? They panicked. By 10 a.m., Chad's political director, campaign manager, and head of fundraising had all resigned. It was a tsunami of really ugly stuff. And Chad? Yeah, he wasn't getting bail. Meanwhile, the so-called country club wives, as the media started calling them, were in a full-blown meltdown. And the servants? Oh, the media had plenty to say about them. But none of it compared to what was happening on social media. Memes flooded every platform, ripping them apart. The scandal didn't just shake their little clique. It rocked the entire country club scene, shaking its wealthy, manicured foundation to the core. The media spotlight was relentless. Stories of extravagant wealth and disgusting behavior spread like wildfire through high society. Plenty of rich folks started pointing fingers, pots calling kettles black. And a whole lot of them suddenly decided it was time for an extended vacation. They closed up their mansions, hopped on private jets, and disappeared to whichever luxury property they owned in some other part of the world. As for Chad, his entire world had collapsed. He was alone. Rats, meet sinking ship. Everyone, even those who had only been barely connected to him, bailed. It was a full-blown every-man-for-himself scramble. Nobody wanted to be caught in the blast radius. Even his own father was walking away. His own blood washing his hands of the mess. Chad was toxic, and there was no saving him now. Multiple investigations were announced. And her? She was sitting in a cold, gray room, wearing orange. It really wasn't her color. Wrists in chains. She hadn't said a word since that night. She just sat there, quiet. Pathetic. Her kids hadn't called. Her parents hadn't written. Nobody had come to see her. She was completely alone. The only thing keeping her company? The sound of the TV, playing from the main area of the jail. And once the other inmates and guards figured out who she was, they made sure it stayed on 24-hour political news. She had no way to escape it. The talking heads on TV had zero shame. They tore her apart, and she had no choice but to sit there and listen. Her court-appointed lawyer was with her now. The DA himself had come to deliver her plea deal. The moment she met his eyes, it hit her. He wasn't here to help. His eyes were cold, predatory. She was nothing to him. Just a stepping stone, a tool to be used. Because the DA? He was from the other political side. And Chad's downfall? A gift. Something he could squeeze for every ounce of value. Without a hint of emotion, he laid it all out. Evidence of premeditation. Chad's own words, caught on video at his little gathering. The servants? Arrested. The country club wives? All facing conspiracy charges. Then, he went step by step through Bob's story. The physical evidence backed it up. And the video? He didn't bother asking who had planted the cameras. Didn't ask who had leaked it. None of that mattered. Not to him. Because now, it was time to talk charges. The DA started listing off the charges against her. One by one, he laid them out, his voice steady, cold, deliberate. Conspiracy. Premeditation. Attempted coercion. Accessory to attempted murder. The list went on. And then, he got to the part that really mattered, the time. By the time he was done tallying up the years she'd be facing behind bars, her hands were trembling. Her face was pale. Her whole life, her perfect, carefully curated country club world, was crumbling in real time. And then, when she thought it couldn't get worse, he pushed a piece of paper across the table. Her deal. A chance to shave some years off. All she had to do was talk. Turn on Chad. Turn on Samantha. Turn on whoever they wanted. It was a lifeline, but a dirty one. And she knew it. For the first time in her life, she had no control. No money, no power, no influence. Just a cold, hard decision. And by the look in the DA's eyes, she knew there was no way out. Only the choice of how much damage she wanted to take. Meanwhile, Bob? He was done. He filed for divorce without a second thought. She got served right there in jail. His offer? $1. Not out of pettiness. Out of finality. Because there was nothing left to negotiate. No assets to split. No future to argue over. Just the clean legal erasure of something that had already died long before. And when the court date came, she never even showed. Didn't matter. The judge ruled in Bob's favor. By default, he won. As for Chad, his fall was even harder. His own people cancelled him in record time. Every connection, every ally, gone. They didn't just walk away. They ran. They erased him like he had never existed. Scrubbed his name from official sites, distanced themselves from his campaign, rewrote the narrative like he was nothing more than a regrettable mistake. They even literally photoshopped him out of old pictures. History. Rewritten. Hell, the Soviets had nothing on these guys. And Bob? He moved on. Or at least he tried to. But there were moments. Dark moments. Stress. Depression. Long nights staring at the ceiling, wondering how the hell he ended up here. Because for years, decades, he had been happy. Genuinely, blissfully happy. And then, in what felt like the blink of an eye, it was all ripped away. That kind of shock doesn't just go away. It lingers. It settles into your bones. It makes you question everything. And some mornings, he'd wake up with that crushing weight on his chest, thinking about how easily he had been fooled. How long he had been lied to. How much of his life had been wasted on someone who never really loved him at all. And that was the part that hurt the most. Not the betrayal. Not the legal battles. Not even the violence. But the lie. The years spent believing he had a real partner by his side, when in reality she had been scheming behind his back all along. But regrets? No. He had none. Because when the time came, he did what he had to do. He eliminated the threats. And now, he sleeps just fine. Bob still has his kids. His grandkids, too. That part of his life? Still intact. Stronger, even. He won a few lawsuits, walked away with a very comfortable bank account. And slowly but surely, he's been rebuilding. His world doesn't look the way it once did. It never will. But that's okay. He sold the house. The one with the bedroom where it all happened. The one filled with ghosts of a life that wasn't real. And he's good with that. Moving forward. Not trying to impress anyone. Not looking back. Because at the end of the day, Bob knows what matters. He has enough. And that's all he needs. Because when you've seen the worst of people, when you've watched your life burn to the ground and built it back up from nothing, you stop wanting things. You stop chasing them. And you start appreciating what you already have. And that, my friends, is the end of this story. Did it go the way you expected? Or did it take a twist you never saw coming? I'd love to hear your thoughts. Drop them in the comments below, and let's get the conversation going. And hey, if this story kept you hooked, don't forget to hit that like button. If you're new here, or just haven't subscribed yet, now's the perfect time to join the community. I bring you fresh, captivating stories every day, so click subscribe and turn on notifications. That way, you never miss a thing. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.